Greetings everyone, I am Talisman and welcome to the Galaxy. Now, it's been over a week since the trailer for Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet had been aired in the Pokemon Presents, and I have taken that time to reflect and have a think about what's happening with the games, what they're presented, get my own thoughts together about things. It also gave me a chance to listen to other YouTubers such as Lockstin, Birdkeeper Toby, Adrive, and even Ruffled Rowlet. Listen to the leaks and rumours, listen to the ideas that these other YouTubers had, and sort of come up with a big overall theory and idea of what I think is going to happen. So that's what this video is going to be about. It's going to be presenting the information we know as a community, the information that we're speculating as a community, but also putting my thoughts into it as well. So to start off with the trailer, they announced that Scarlet and Violet is going to be known as the Paldea region, and that Paldea is open world, free to explore, do whatever you wish at your own pace, your own leisure, and to me that sounds really wonderful and great. I have a couple of theories as to why that might not be 100% true, and that's basically because of the past and what they've shown. For example, with the wild area in Sword and Shield, it was free to explore. You could go anywhere in it, but there were certain locations within that area that you couldn't quite reach because you didn't unlock something. Same thing with Legends Arceus. There was you could go anywhere within that area, but there were certain parts of it that you couldn't quite reach because of the game mechanics that you haven't unlocked. And I think that's going to be very similar here. I think you can explore everywhere. You can go anywhere. You can see the world. But I also think that there's going to be certain places we can't quite reach or won't be able to attain a certain thing until we unlock or do something else. Some of those things might be the ability to climb, the rock faces and cliffs, or to fly from one area to another, or even glide, to one area to another. I think that's going to be locked a little bit, and I will touch upon the ride mechanics and all that in a moment. But I honestly think that that's going to be gatekeeping a little bit with the Pokemon in the overworld, because we know there's going to be overworld Pokemon. I think it's going to be a Legends Arceus sort of thing where you're going to have Pokemon at such a high level and you can't catch them. And I think that that's going to be locked behind the gym badges. So you have to have a certain amount of badges before you can catch a certain Pokemon at a certain level. Or, you might have to get to a certain area before, or a certain thing before you can unlock that. I think that's what it's going to be like. So I still think there's going to be gatekeeping, but I think it's going to be a little bit more free compared to what we've had in previous games. But in saying that, I also have a big fear when it comes to it. They said with the gym challenges especially that you can challenge any gym in any particular order. I think that's true. 100% I believe that's true. But they also said there's no level scaling. So to me that indicates that you can challenge any gym. You can go to the 8th gym first up, but be prepared to face level 40 Pokemon with level 5s, I think it's going to be like that situation. I think the gym challenges, you should be challenging it in a certain way. You don't have to, but I think they're going to try and push you to go through a certain way, subtly, but still make it look like it's your idea and your thoughts and your choice. That's the way I look at it. Because could you imagine the first gym that you go to is in it from probably level 15 to 17 or something like that, and you think, I want a bit more of a challenge, and you go to another gym that's a bit further away, and all of a sudden you're in a gym battle with level 30s or level 40s. Like, to me, that's a big change. I mean, someone could do it. I'm not saying anyone can't, but to me that's a bit harder than what it should be. With the gyms previously, it was one single linear path. Now it could be a big wide web, spider web almost, and it could be a lot harder and more of a challenge, and that could be good for some people. For me personally, who is someone who just plays on a casual level and enjoys the competitive side but doesn't play the competitive side, that's sort of like, okay, thank you, but no thank you. I just want to play the game. So yeah, I'm a bit worried about the gatekeeping aspect, because I think they're still going to do it, but it will be implied that it's more free and, leaving it up to you in a certain way. So yeah, I think that Legends Arceus and Sword and Shield were definitely the pre-test for this, and I think they're giving us a very clear indication that yes, it's going to be open world. Yes, you can challenge the gyms in any way, but at the same time, there's certain things that you won't be able to do straight away. That's the way I look at it. So, going from that into the whole riding aspect with Iodon and Miraidon. We know a bit more about them now, that they can be used as like a vehicle. And I've heard all the people say that Iodon, it has the throat that looks like a tyre, but it runs on all fours, swims on all fours. I understand the problem with that, but at the same time, I don't see an issue with it. Personally, I think it looks accurate to what a Pokemon design would be. It's not futuristic like Miraidon, that has the throat tyre that can actually spin, because it looks more mechanical. So to me, that makes more sense, where Iodon looks more organic, so it can't have that throat spinning aspect like a tyre. So to me, that makes perfect sense. And when I was listening to the trailer, and they said that there was three mechanics that you could, or three particular paths you can choose with these games. And one they emphasised was the gym challenge, but they never really said what the other two were. But I think they did. I think they implied it. You see, the first aspect I thought was Iodon and Miraidon, definitely. They definitely showed off a lot of their capabilities of traversing the areas and the region, flying, swimming, going across the open fields and plains, jumping over other Pokemon. They showed a lot of that. And I honestly think that's the second component, or one of the three components. Because if you look back at the whole, the region and what it's based on, being Spain and Portugal, what do we know about Spain? Spain is heavily, and I mean heavily, into racing. They're one of the countries in the world that leads the way in motorsports. They hold, let me get this right because I've got it written down here. They hold 2 Formula 1 races a year. They hold 4 international bike races, and they hold the World Championship Rally as well. So there's a lot of racing involved in Spain, and that's quite predominant in Spanish culture, like the racing and how it's presented. I honestly think that with Iodon and Miraidon being shown so much in the trailer, and the fact that the region's based on Spain and Portugal, sorry, I'm getting a bit tongue-tied because I'm so interested in this, but because everything's tied together the way it is, I think that racing is going to be a massive component in this game. We also saw racing in Sword and Shield, believe it or not. It took me a while to actually click myself. But if you talk to certain NPCs in the wild area, they actually said you could try challenging and beating this time record from one place to another, and you could increase your bike speed to get there. There was that already implemented in Sword and Shield. So it wouldn't be much more of a stretch to say that there's going to be racing in Scarlet and Violet. Maybe I'm completely wrong, and maybe I'm looking too far into it, but for a place that's heavily involved in racing such as Spain and Portugal, and then having a region that's based on Spain and Portugal, it only makes sense to transition it. I mean, you look at Galar back in Sword and Shield, everything was British. Everything screamed British, from the Pokemon, how they, some of the characters spoke, everything screams Great Britain. So it's not much of a stretch to say that racing is going to be part of Scarlet and Violet. Okay, so that's the second part, but what's the third part? Well, the third component, I think, might be the treasure hunt aspect, because they did push that as well in the trailer. That was one thing that they started off with the trailer after going over the land and all that sort of thing. So it's possible that that's what the third part of the game will be featuring. So you got the gym battles, you got the racing, or you got the treasure hunt. And the other thing with the treasure hunt that I thought was going to be quite interesting is because there's been rumours of a mimic Pokemon, a coin Pokemon that turns into a mimic. And the theory going around the community that Ruffled Rowlet, even Adrive mentioned quite a few times in the past, was that you capture this coin Pokemon and then you travel the world, or the region I should say, and you collect other coins. Maybe it might not be a coin, it might be something else, but you collect all these different parts, much like in Sun and Moon, when you went around and you collect the Zygarde cells. So you got Zygarde at 10%, 50%, and 100%. A bit like that. Once you collect 100% of these coins, then the coin Pokemon evolves into a treasure chest that's a mimic treasure chest. So picture a treasure chest with teeth, that attacks. That's basically what it could be. And if that's the case, then I could see maybe a fairy steel type, maybe, it's possible, but I could see something like that actually happening, and that could be part of the whole treasure hunt aspect. That's what you have to do, is collect all these Pokemon, the parts of these Pokemon to create 100% of the mimic. That could possibly be it. I think that'd be a cool idea, actually. I think that'd be really, really good and really clever. And also, when you think about Spain and Portugal, especially Spain, many, many years ago, they used to travel the world seeking treasure, seeking new worlds. They had this whole rich history about that. They were a very rich country at the time, so and a bit of a powerhouse in the naval aspect. So it's possible that that's part of the whole three components of the game. So you got the treasure hunt, you have the races, and then the gym challenge. I think that would be making a lot of sense, and that's probably why they hinted at it, but they didn't really reveal what it was. Now, I could be completely wrong. Maybe these two are not the other components, but to me that screams the most logical sense. So with that said, let's move on to the next part, which is the Pokemon that they've shown off. Alright, so first of all, we'll start off with the obvious and probably one of the greatest Pokemon that they showed in the trailer, which is Paldean Wooper. It's a poison and ground type, so really good typing, like I said, I'm not a competitive person myself. I just play for the fun and the casual nature of it, but even I can sit back and go, wow, poison and ground, that's a good typing. So its only weaknesses are water, ice, ground, and psychic, I believe. I think that's all that they've got. There, anyway. So that's 2 times effective moves. So yes, it has a lot of weaknesses, but it's sort of gained a resistance with, it's still got the resistance of from electric type moves. It's immune to it. So in a way, that's still good. And I think it's a pretty good Pokemon. Interesting how it looks and what the history of it is. Like, being a Pokemon that was once in the water, that got pushed out of its territory, and now it has a poisonous film over its body. I think that's pretty neat and nifty. I'm a big fan of Quagsire myself, so if they get a new Quagsire regional variant, or if it's a completely new Pokemon, I'm on board for it. I'd like to see what they come up with. As long as they don't do anything wrong to destroy Quagsire's image, I'll be happy with it. But I think that was pretty cool. Very interesting Pokemon. I'd like to see what it's evolves into after that. So the next one that I saw that I thought was really interesting and I liked it was Titan, the new ice Pokemon. The Terra Whale. That's a very interesting sort of approach. A whale that's on land. I mean, we do have Garchomp, which is a land shark. So why not have a whale that's on land? I wonder if it has a pre-form or pre-evolution. That would make a lot of sense if it did, to show off. We've heard there's a dolphin Pokemon. Could that be related? I'm not sure, but it's possible that there's some pre-form to it. And it's got all the standard ice weaknesses. I would imagine it's a bulky but slow ice type. I could see it having a very high attack, really big bulk, probably good health stats, but very slow. And I would imagine it's not very specially defensive. So it is what it is, but I think it would be a pretty cool Pokemon nonetheless. And then we got one that I thought was pretty funny, a very good play on words, Fido. It's a Pokemon based on pastry, bagels, bread. This is really interesting. I thought it gave me Alchemy vibes when I first saw it. Milcery and Alchemy especially. I thought, yeah, I can see what they're going with, but at the same time, Fido, I mean, it's so heavily play on words with it. I couldn't imagine doing anything more than that. So it's a fairy type, which once again gives me the whole Milcery and Alchemy sort of vibes. I really don't have much more to say with it. It is what it is. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I still think it's quite funny, and it is what it is, you know. So they're what was shown off. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Paldean Wooper and Titan. I want to see how they interact, and I wouldn't mind going through the game with one of those, or both of them, really, to see what they're like. But then I started to listen to a few other people, such as Ruffled Rowlet and Adrive, who were telling me more information about the other Pokemon from the first trailer we got, such as Palmy and Smolif, which I thought were quite interesting, and I thought I would talk about it. Now, Palmy especially, there was talk of it having, how it charged its paws together to attack with electricity. Well, Ruffled Rowlet was saying that it's possible it could be using those paws like a defibrillator. So it rubs them together, the whole, you got the two defibrillator pads, you rub them together, clear, and you shock the patient. Well, much like that, Palmy rubs his palms together and then touches a Pokemon and zaps them. I think that'd be a really cool mechanic. If they're going to go down that route, or that route, I should say, I would love to see it have an ability that uses that sort of idea to revive a Pokemon, or give it a health boost. So could you, if that's the case, and that was, in my idea, is true, could you imagine that sort of thing in a competitive standpoint? Like, you've got your Pokemon partner that's low on health, you got your Palmy out there, you do this defibrillator move, and you can restore life or do damage with it, whatever the case may be. I think that'd be a pretty interesting aspect, and definitely something that would change Pokemon in a very unique way. So with that, we go into Smolif. Now, there's not a lot of information that I'm aware of that involves Smolif, and I haven't heard anything other than it could be branching off into two evolutions, male and female, depending on what you've got. I don't see a problem with that. I keep going back to the whole thing that it could be like Executor in a way, where when it evolves, it gets 3 heads, 3 olives, or that 3 Smolifs basically on a bigger sort of tree. I think that would be interesting. So it's like Executor sort of clone, but it's in a different way, and it's possible. That's the way I look at it, but I have definitely heard from Ruffled Rowlet and Adrive that the rumours going about it is it's going to have either a split evolution or 3 heads or something like that. So we'll have to wait and see with that one. Yeah, so I don't know about the legendary, so to speak. We've already covered them a lot, but I guess the only other thing I can say with the whole starter idea, or the starters, thinking about it logically, I'm hoping that Sprigatito stays on all fours. I think that would be a lot better. It would separate it from something like Incineroar. I've heard that it could be a Smilodon sort of look. I think that would be really interesting and pretty cool design if they could come up with something like that. But I don't know. I have hopes for it, but I'm not sure. My favourite out of the 3 would have to be Fuecoco. And the way I see it, and all the rumours come back to this crocodile that's on all fours, hopefully. That way, once again, it separates it from a lot of the other starter Pokemon that, you know, are on 2 legs, or have a reptilian sort of features, or whatever the case may be. And apparently it has a fire rooster sort of hair setup. I wouldn't be surprised if that's true. I wouldn't be surprised if it's just a very generic looking crocodile with fire on it somewhere. It's probably on its head. But to me, that looks pretty cool. And that would be a good design. Quaxley is probably the most interesting out of the 3, because I get the Spanish conquistador or a pirate sort of vibe. And that would make sense in the whole Spanish lore and history, you know, especially if they're translating it into Paldea. I would have to wait and see, but that's my ideas and my spin. I think a conquistador or a pirate, or even a mixture of the 2, might be a perfect sort of design. I don't know what that would possibly look like, but that's the way I look at it. So with those Pokemon, I'm definitely interested to see how they go, and if anything else comes out within the next few weeks. We've still got the leaker rolling things out, so I guess time will tell. So the next part I want to talk about is the whole game mechanic, what they revealed, called Terrastolyze, or the Terrastolyze mechanic. So compared to other mechanics, I think this is pretty standard. Now, when you had Mega Evolution, you know, it was a held item. You got to evolve your Pokemon one more time for the whole battle, and then it reverted back to its previous form. To me, that was quite good. I wasn't a big fan of Mega Evolution, only because, well, some of the designs were really good, some weren't. You know, not all Megas were created equal either, so it was very hard. Even though you had such a diverse range, not all of them were showcased for as being as good as they are. So, but in the big scheme of things, Mega Evolution, I'd be 100% behind compared to a few of the others. So when it came to that, I was fine. Then we went to Gen 7, and we had the Z Crystals. Now, to me, the Z Crystals were like this one-off, super powerful move that devastated your opponent. I was fine with that. I was happy with that. I would have liked to see the Z Crystals have a bit more of an impact, so not just a one-off power move, but also have something else that happens. So Fire Z may have set up the sun a little bit more, or for a longer period of time, or may have burnt any Pokemon within the battle, like that sort of thing. I'd like to see an extra effect with it, but it is what it is. They did try to fix up Lycanroc's Z Crystal and give it like the whole terrain destroying ability, but in the end, Z Crystals were a bit like Megas. They were not all created equally. Not all of them had the right sort of, you know, balance, but they were what they were, and I enjoyed them for what they were. Then we got to the whole Dynamax thing. Now, I think Dynamax is a little broken in a way. I wasn't overly keen at the start with Dynamax, but it did grow on me a little bit. The one thing I don't like about it personally is the whole, you know, growing to astronomical sizes. I thought that if a Pokemon just doubled in size, so if it was 2 foot tall and it grew to 4 foot tall, I would be happy with that. Something that was a little bit more manageable. But when you got something like a Gigantamax Venusaur that, you know, you compare the sizes and you're standing up to its toe, you know, you're only its toe high, and then you have something like Gigantamax Lapras and you're not even a quarter of its height. It's sort of, you think, wow, the proportions are really out there. So I think if they brought it down a little bit and made it more manageable, it could have been better. But the whole concept after a while did grow on me, and that was fine. With the whole Terrastolyze phenomenon that they've brought into, or bringing into Scarlet and Violet, I'm all for it. I actually think it's a really good idea. There's a couple of things that I would like to see happen as well, and I will touch upon that. First of all, with it, I'm not a big fan of the crowns that they get, or the hats. It sort of makes it a little bit more goofy in my opinion, but at the same time, I understand why they did it, and I appreciate that they tried something with it. They made mention of it that you can find, for example, an Eevee that had a grass terrastolyzed crystal form or a water terrastolyzed crystal form. And I started to think about that a bit more. I thought, well, how could that benefit Eevee if it is unable to learn a grass type move or a water type move naturally, or even by move tutors or TMs or whatever the case may be in Scarlet and Violet? How could they possibly make that work? Because it boosts the same type of move that the Pokemon is, and when you Terrastolyze, you become that particular type that your territory is. So if you had a water type Terrastolyze Eevee, then water type moves will obviously be powered up by it. But how could you power it up if it doesn't have a water type move? So I started to think, possibly, and this is a possibility, that maybe you can learn a move like Hidden Power, like a Hidden Power variant, that makes any Pokemon, when it Terrastolyzes and gains its new typing, that move becomes the same type as the Terrastolyze form. So you could probably call it Terrastolyze Attack, for example. I don't know, I'm just pulling it out thin air. But this Terrastolyze Attack will take on the type that you turn into, and therefore give you that power bonus and power boost. I think that would be pretty interesting. I also have a feeling that, much like Zacian, Zamazenta, and Eternatus from Sword and Shield, where they had a move that was super effective against Dynamax and Gigantamax Pokemon, I would not be surprised if Koraidon, or another legendary has a move, or even all three of them, I should say, have a move that is able to be super effective against Terrastolized Pokemon. I would not be surprised in the slightest if that's the truth, and that's what happens. So that's my thoughts about it. It's growing on me. I'm not a big fan of the Terrastolized hats, crowns, whatever you want to call it, but it is growing on me, and I understand why they put them in there. It'd be interesting once again to see what happens. To wrap it up, this entire talk, because it is getting a bit long, I wanted to touch on something that I heard Birdkeeper Toby speak about a few days ago, and I will have a link to the video in the description if I remember to put it in. And he was talking about Lockstin's theory of alchemy and how it's impacted not only, Gen 6, Gen 7, and Gen 8, but also it's now impacting Gen 9. So the theory is, in alchemy, you have the Arceus. And isn't that funny that in alchemy you have the Arceus, and we have Arceus, the god Pokemon. Right? So bear with me with this, because it is quite interesting. And once again, shout out to Birdkeeper Toby for actually bringing this to the light. So with the Arceus in alchemy, there is 4 key components. And at the moment, the 3 components I will touch upon at the start are life, light, and poison. Now, you're probably thinking, talisman, what's that got to do with anything? Well, let me dive in a little bit deeper. So the first component being life. In Gen 6, we were introduced to Zygarde, and Zygarde was a dragon that protected the balance between life, death, and kept everything in perspective and balance. And it kept the Pokemon of life and death, Xerneas and Yveltal, in balance as well. But it also wielded their powers over life and death. And what did that create? It created Mega Evolution. And that's the first part of the alchemy point. Second part was light. In Gen 7, when we went to Alola, we were introduced to Necrozma. Now, Necrozma was a Pokemon that was absorbing light and used that light to attack. And when it absorbed enough light, it became its final form, Ultra Necrozma. And what happened with that? Necrozma ends up creating the Z crystals. See where I'm going? The third component, poison. Now, that's a little bit harder, but it comes to it. We'll get to it. In Sword and Shield, Gen 8, we were introduced to Eternatus, a dragon and poison Pokemon. And it had the power, or this overwhelming power, that seeped into the very land of Galar and also created the Wishing Stars, all of which were responsible for Dynamax and Gigantamax Pokemon. It's a poison type Pokemon. The third component of alchemy, poison. But what's the fourth component? Because I did mention there was a fourth one. And have a guess what it could be. Well, I can tell you right now because I've got it written here in front of me just to refresh my memory. It is reflective. The fourth component is called reflective. And lo and behold, when they showed the trailer, in the trailer they showed crystal Pokemon. Crystals can reflect. They can refract, depending on what they are. But isn't it funny that since Gen 6, Gen 7, 8, and 9, all four have a component from alchemy that links to the legendary or a legendary of each region. You know, so is it possible that there is a third legendary that has not been revealed just yet that is based on crystals? Could be a dragon, could be a different type, but has been or is responsible for creating the Terrastolyze phenomenon? It is completely possible. And I would not be surprised, once again, like I said previously, if this particular Pokemon has a move that is able to damage, do super effective damage to Terrastolyze Pokemon. I would not be surprised in the slightest. And when it comes to this Pokemon, you could argue it could be multi-type, just like Arceus himself or itself, where Arceus you can use different plates to change its type. I wouldn't be surprised if there is something else with this particular Pokemon that allows it to change its type, which I think that'll be quite interesting nonetheless. So, big shout outs to Lockstin for the whole alchemy theory, because he was the one that originally presented it back, many years ago, back when I think it was Alola came out. So Gen 7, I think he was the one that originally presented that. And then you got Birdkeeper Toby. Big shout out to you for actually coming up and showing the whole alchemy theory linking to the legendaries, because that was quite interesting, and that's why I wanted to share. I'm not trying to steal his thunder, because big shout out to him, he was the first one to do it and I applaud him for it. I just want to help bring it to light a bit more, because I don't see many people talking about it and discussing it, and it makes perfect sense to me that that's the way it's going. So that's the ideas, my thoughts, theories, and also bringing some news to light. It'd be interesting to see what else comes up in the near future, especially if they drop another trailer or do another presents or have gameplay footage released or something. But until then, we're just going to have to wait. But thank you very much for tuning into this video and taking the time out of your day to view and have a listen to what I have to say and what other YouTubers have got to say as well. I will try and link all the videos from the other YouTubers I mentioned in the description below. But yeah, thank you very much for your time. Please, once again, like, subscribe, and comment what your thoughts and theories are, what you believe. I'd love to hear what you've got to say. But once again, thank you very much, and I will see you next time at Talisman Galaxy.